So that's a lot of dogs, and I'm obviously a dog lover, and I have poems about dogs, and I have poems in which a dog just kind of walks into the third stanza and disappears. I started to realize there's a risk to this because it could be conceived or construed as a kind of a cheap way of arousing reader sympathy, and it does. Writing poems about domestic animals does verge toward the sentimental. So the poem I'm going to read now is a fairly recent poem, which I wrote just in an attempt to kind of balance out that predicament, perhaps. And it's called The Revenant, that being a kind of ghost, a spirit that comes back. The Revenant. I am the dog you put to sleep, as you like to call the needle of oblivion. Come back to tell you this simple thing: I never liked you. When I licked your face, I thought of biting off your nose. When I watched you toweling yourself dry, I wanted to leap and unman you with a snap. I resented the way you moved, your lack of animal grace, the way you would sit in a chair to eat, a napkin on your lap, knife in your hand. I would have run away, but I was too weak, a trick you taught me while I was learning to sit and heel, and greatest of insults, shake hands without a hand. I admit the sight of the leash would excite me, but only because it meant I was about to smell things you had never touched. You do not want to believe this, but I have no reason to lie. I hated the car, the rubber toys, disliked your friends, and worse, your relatives. The jingling of my tags drove me mad. You always scratched me in the wrong place. All I ever wanted from you was food and water in my metal bowls. While you slept, I watched you breathe as the moon rose in the sky. It took all my strength not to raise my head and howl. Now I am free of the collar, the yellow raincoat, monogrammed sweater, the absurdity of your lawn. And that is all you need to know about this place, except what you already supposed and are glad it did not happen sooner, that everyone here can read and write, the dogs in poetry, the cats and all the others in prose. You would think it would be the other way around. Some would believe that the cats are the poetic, but it's actually the dogs who turn out to be the receptacles of poetry. This poem, I mean, I look at the title of this poem. It's a fairly recent poem, which I haven't read but once or twice. And I want to say Job, but the title is actually Job. So, I mean, if you're an English major, particularly, you will say Job, but it's actually just Job. But these are the kinds of multiple readings that poets welcome, right? We like that layering and all as much ambiguity as possible. I was just this week was really thinking about an opportunity for this kind of ambiguity. I thought I wanted to make a movie. And I don't know what the movie would be about, or anything about, or the script, or the subject, but all I knew was that the movie would be called, the title of the movie would be Children, because then at some point you would hear a voice on the radio saying, "Children, now playing everywhere." So I just have to get a producer interested in this pun. At any rate, it's called Job, and it has a little rhyme scheme to it. The first thaw in weeks, the winter sun bright on the icicles dripping from the eaves, and piles of snow softening at the curbs. But I am still indoors, managing the store of myself, running the factory of me, forklifting paper from place to place, pacing within with a feather duster, a clipboard, a ring of keys, a black ledger, and a pen behind one ear. It's a job, this tending to the self, what used to be a breeze, but now no break, no knocking off at 5, as at the mill or forge. And to push this metaphor is to follow the bad example of the bees and make more work with trope and rhyme. Today is the day I will let myself go, get up off my worker's knees, and show myself the warehouse door. While the world outside is melting, trees dropping their white filigree, I will go boating in my shiftless head, let my pencil drift like a schoolboy's to the margin of the page, now free to draw a plane, an army tank, the initials of a girl. Thank you. Well, here's a poem about that kind of lifts ordinariness to new depths. It's just, what I like to start with almost nothing and see where it goes. And it's called The Long Day. The Long Day. In the morning, I ate a banana like a young ape and worked on a poem called Nocturne. In the afternoon, I opened the mail with a short kitchen knife, and when dusk began to fall, I took off my clothes, put on Sweethearts of the Rodeo, and soaked in a claw-footed bathtub. I closed my eyes and thought about the alphabet, the letters filing out of the halls of kindergarten to become literature. If the British call Z, Z, I wondered, why not call B, bed? And D, dead. And why does Z, which looks like the fastest letter, come at the very end? Unless they are all facing east, while we are facing north in our chairs. It was then that I heard the clap of thunder and the dogs barking, and the claw-footed bathtub took one step forward. Or was it backward, I had to ask, as I reached for a faraway towel. Worst ways to spend the day. I'll try a few shorter poems, 2 or 3 of them. One is called, I'll tell you the epigraph first. The epigraph came from an article I was reading on, it was a review, in fact, of a book on printing. And I came to this sentence. It was a review written by Hugh Kennedy in the TLS, and the sentence popped out, and I wrote it down, and then the poem kind of gathered around it. And the sentence was, it has been calculated that each copy of the Gutenberg Bible required the skins of 300 sheep. And the short poem is called Flock. I can see them squeezed into the holding pen behind the stone building where the printing press is housed, all of them squirming around to find a little room, and looking so much alike it would be nearly impossible to count them, and there is no telling which one will carry the news that the Lord is a shepherd, one of the few things they already know.